Well, good afternoon, good morning, good day to everyone. Thank you for being on with us. This is our second interview that we are conducting for our CDFI Credit Union Practitioner course. We are so very happy to have Luis Pastor with us from Latino Community Credit Union. Luis, thank you so much for being on and kind of helping us through talking about financial inclusion with credit unions, CDFI certification, and really kind of diving in a little bit to some of our pieces in this module that really covers looking at opportunity and risk and speaking to financial inclusion in supporting our members and supporting community. So Luisa, if you could, I would love if you could just start us off by introducing yourself, maybe giving us a little bit about your journey in your current work at Latino Community Credit Union, and kind of introducing yourself to our practitioners on the course.
Buenos dias, good morning. As Crisel was mentioning, I'm Luis Pastor. I'm the president and CEO of Latino Community Credit Union in North Carolina. I've been in this position since 2000. I arrived to the credit union as a brand new immigrant arriving to United States because my wife was accepted to start her MBA at Duke University. And I arrived to Durham, North Carolina. Before arriving, I never visited United States before. I didn't know where North Carolina was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do the 2 years that we were planning of living in United States. So somebody told me about this new organization, this new credit union that just opened a couple of months before my arrival. And they were in need of a lot of support. So having education in finance and some experience working in financial institutions back in Spain, I decided to volunteer in the meantime that I was waiting for my work permit. And when the work permit arrived, because I have the opportunity to have a visa that allowed me to work here, I decided what I saw that what this credit union needed was somebody with a vision, with the capacity, with some knowledge in finance, with some knowledge in small organizations, with the ambition to grow, with the energy to grow, but mainly how to build individuals that can really take ownership of the organization. And that was basically my background. I have an MBA and I have a master in human resources. Beyond education is part of my passion, just to see people growing around and people reaching the full potential. So that's how I began, and 21 years later, I'm still here and still in the same place. The credit union is a little different. We are much bigger. When I began, it was 200 members. Now we have 106,000 in the last recount. We have members in every single state, but in Alaska. So if any of you guys are from Alaska and you want to join our credit union, you will make our 50 plus DC and Puerto Rico as our recount. We have members from 136 countries in the world. For those of you that don't know how many countries are in the world, it is less than 200. So depending on United Nations, if you consider Palestine or the Vatican City as countries or not, the count may be between 196 and 198. So basically we have 65% of the total countries of the world represented. So our experience goes beyond being Latino. It's more being an immigrant and not feeling welcome included to the financial system in the United States. And that has been my journey, and I hope to have another few years in front of me to keep growing with our credit union.
That's wonderful, Luis, and thank you for kind of directing the conversation into Latino Community Credit Union. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how the credit union was organized, Who led those efforts, and what's been that impact since its inception?
The origins were probably very similar to many other credit unions. It was lack of inclusion, lack of accessibility, in this case for an immigrant community. North Carolina, the southeast of the United States, started receiving a lot of immigrants in the late 1990s, early 2000. So at the end of in 1999, a group of community leaders decide that the crimes against the immigrants that were happening every single weekend here in Durham, they should have an end. And the answer was not arming ourselves. The answer was not just maintaining our community in a defensive mode. It was let's open a space what financial institutions can really welcome, accept, serve our community. The first approach was to talk with the banks, and banks decided there was not a market. There was no need for a special accessibility for a community that at this moment probably most of us only speak one language, Spanish. The second approach, when that was unsuccessful, the second approach was with credit unions, and the answer for this mainly two large credit unions at the time, state employees credit unions and self-help, and they decide that they can support this initiative, but we, the Latinos involved in the initiative, we should be we should be leading the initiative, but they can become supporters. So that's what happened. An independent credit union was chartered in less than 3 months with the support of the NCUA and the credit union division, because the crime was something that happened every single weekend. And I think that over the years, we have been able to transform something that started as a negative approach to saving lives to something much more positive, which is the wealth creation and the wealth participation and the inclusion of our community. Some of these initial leaders, they are still working with us. 2 of them still are serving in our board of directors. Some of us has been here for 21 years. I wasn't in the first conversation, but I was here 3 months after the opening of the credit union. And from there, as I said before, we have been transforming the idea of a credit union for something to be reactive, transforming in something to be proactive. We're not just here to defend ourselves, we're here to progress, to grow, to provide an inclusive economy and provide financial opportunities for all of us.
And you mentioned, Luis, that the credit union is growing rapidly. I mean, throughout the years, you had mentioned, not just within the United States, statewide, as well as internationally. So I'm wondering how it's been able, the credit union's been able to sustain the growth, and what role has your CDFI certification played in that?
Growing is not easy. Growing is not easy if you don't have the experience or the resources. So for us, just being in a permanent situation of growth, opening branches, we haven't merged with anybody. We are not the result of bringing talent, or we're basically everything that we have has been cultivated internally. We have 16 branches up and running right now, 2 more that they are coming this year, only in North Carolina, but we're offering services through our remote channels to many other states, membership deposits, and we have started last year offering even our mortgage program in our surrounding states, in Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. In less than 3 months, we already have booked mortgages of all these 3 states. So growing is not easy when this is a recent immigrant state. So basically, what we don't have is the the personnel, the staff that has the experience working in credit union. So, and every time, I'm talking 20 years ago, when we tried to develop somebody, so the banks now start looking at our employees, and that's fine. People can go, can move. I don't think they go up. I think they go down, just moving to a different financial institution, but it's their choice. But if you know how to develop people, if you know how to cultivate your talent, if you know how to move tellers to be branch managers, you're always going to have this capacity, these individuals. So we really enjoy when people join us and they grow. They have this ambition to do something different in their lives. As immigrants, many times we are not at the same level of opportunity that any other employee or possible employee in the United States. We have thick accents, our experience or our education is not considered at the same level if this is overseas, so it's not considered because people don't know. And ignorance brings a lot of fear, and this fear probably relegate the opportunity for many individuals. So just taking this opportunity to receiving asylum seekers, immigrants, or people that has been born here, but with a very limited network in their families, because their families are hardworking carpenters or housekeepers, and they don't know how to introduce themselves into a more professional stage of work. So we have been able to provide this opportunity to our community and let them grow and explode in their talents. I think talent is everywhere. Talent doesn't understand of gender, of country of origin, or even of this language that you speak. Talent is everywhere. We just need to cultivate, we need to find it, and we need to let it grow. So moving into being a credit union into a permanent situation of transition, explosion, and growth. Probably some of you in serving in a smaller credit unions, you know what it is being only 2, 3, 4 people trying to manage everything in the credit union. I remember that as well. At some point, we used to have 1,100 members per employee at the credit union. That was crazy. Fortunately, we have been able to be balancing as our growth has kept coming, our resources have kept coming, we have been able to provide more staff for the credit union. But these people with no fear, with a willingness to serve our community that stay here brought us where we are right now. So being a small credit union is not a problem if that's what you want to be. But if you want to provide impact, serving more people, in our case, the demand is still here. So volume is something that benefits. And in order to reach volume, being a certified CDFI has been a big help for us. One of the big limitations for credit unions in our financial model is the need that we have for equity to grow as any other company. It's not just a financial institution, any organization needs equity to grow. But as a credit union, the only way that we can access capital is through return earnings. And that takes a while because we just need to provide a good deal to our community. So we need to cut our margins. So cutting our margins provide less equity. So having less equity slow down the process of growth. So having access to yearly rounds of financing through the US Treasury, through the CDFI. In our case, this money can be used for multiple programs. In our case, we made a decision 20 years ago, let's use these applications for equity. It's the less appealing, the less sexy thing that you can present to any foundation or to any organization providing support through grants, because they want to see the immediate impact of the money that they're going to give you in phases, in families, in programs. They want to take credit for you creating the new mortgage program, for you opening a new branch, but explaining that what you want is money for equity, so you can bring more deposits, or you can make more loans. And through the margin of these loan deposits, when all these branches and programs will come, sometimes it's difficult to explain. or it was difficult to explain, but we have been very consistent in applying just for equity. And with that, we have been able to compensate this or accelerate this process of retained earnings, so we can be able to keep growing and growing because we have enough equity to do that.
Wonderful. So for Latino community, it serves a population that many financial institutions have ignored. And you spoke to that just a little bit about that population, our people. So if you could speak a little bit to how you've succeeded in a market where other lenders only see risk amongst that population.
It's good to see risk everywhere because we're in a business of risk. What I don't think that is appropriate is when you don't know how to measure a risk, and because you don't know, you just penalize these communities. But this is pure ignorance. This is pure ignorance. Usually, as I said before, ignorance brings a lot of fear. Being an immigrant myself, being a credit union CEO with my work permit, and even with that, I was denied 3 times a credit card application because my credit history was not enough. Teach us a lot of things. One is credit history or the credit report is something that doesn't work for the immigrant community. Because we came here in an adult life and you have already started your financial life with different patterns of behavior, because in most of our countries it's completely the opposite here. If you want credit, the best thing is don't have credit, don't get in debt, and you're going to be more likely to receive credit. And suddenly you come here and say, no, you want credit, you need previous credit. And your question is, who's going to give you the first loan? Mm-hmm. Well, we are. Latino Community Credit Union, we have access to any single line of product, not now, since we started with a credit history, even with a mortgage. We have proved once and again that previous credit history is not good, or is not the only predictor that you can use to serve your community. During many financial crises that we have been living in the last 21 years, from the first recessions in 2003 to 2005 to the big financial crisis of 2008, 2009, we have proved that our community performs in a much better way than any other community. When in the United States, the average delinquency in 2009 for mortgages was around 11%, for the whole country, we never overpassed the 3%. During the pandemic, we haven't had one. Our delinquency has even performed better than it used to do in 2019 or 2018. Our community is a community that really understands their responsibilities. And if you give them the opportunity and you work with them, because bad things happen to good people. And that's why you need a credit union, to understand this moment, to support the individual in this moment, and this community is going to pay you 10 times with this loyalty, with this commitment of maintaining their worth at the credit union, because that's all that we have. When you're an immigrant, you don't have network, you don't have equity, you don't have family, you only have your word. And if you commit to your credit union, a credit union treats you as part of your part of the family, people are going to perform much better than in any other financial institution. Usually, in the last 10 years, our losses, now that we're competing with the, I don't know, big guys still, but still the medium to big guys, credit unions over 500 million in assets, our losses are 1/4 of our peers. Our community pays back the loan, so why not to trust on them? And that has been the whole secret, is instead of assuming that people are not going to do something, let's assume that people are going to do it. Let's think positively, and let's give the immigrant the opportunity to fail, instead of us closing the channels, the opportunities for them, because we in our behavior that we measure with other communities, we think that they don't fit in the description. Of course, we don't fit because we came from a total different culture, different language, different life experience. And if we don't fit, that it shouldn't imply penalizing the opportunities for this community. So we took this approach based on need, based on hope, but based on this was our reality. We know that people are going to commit to pay back their loans. So let's give the opportunity for people to buy what they need, not more than they need, because that's start complicating your life. But if you give access to people to the things that they need, they're going to protect that, because that's the dream of any immigrant coming here, to put a roof on your head and provide for your family. So we're the fund institution for doing that.
That's wonderful, Luis. I mean, I consistently think about, you know, how we continue to serve our communities not from that deficit place of thinking about, you know, our communities are coming in and they're already at a deficit, but where can we really kind of wrap our arms around the community and say, like, we trust you. We equate that trust to those opportunities, and thinking about like where credit unions help to serve their members in that way. So thank you for sharing that. If you could share the core values that drive the work and impact of Latino Community Credit Union, and what's the secret to your growth and strong financial performance?
The secret is the people that we serve, that we trust, is core values. Everybody's treated equally. We are probably one of the last few credit unions that we don't do risk-based lending based on credit history. We only do risk-based lending based on down payment, which means that if you bring a 10% down, you are going to have a different price that you bring a 5% down. It doesn't matter if your Beacon score is 500 or 800, because we say that credit history is not a good predictor of your financial performance. So treating everybody the same. The new member just arrived with $10 in the saving account has access to all our loans on the same rate that the CEO has been here for 21 years. Because all of us were members. We need to educate our community. We're not here to provide products. Financial products should be so complicated. We shouldn't be so complicated. If you cannot explain a financial product in 3-5 minutes, it's not the problem of the consumer, it's not the problem of the member, it's the problem of the employee of the product. We really provide plain vanilla products, because how complicated should be a checking account? How complicated should be a credit card? How complicated should be anything that we should be doing? I think we need to understand that sometimes in certain professions, we try to abuse of some language that make us sound very clever, because we know the terminology, and honestly, I don't see any value on that. I think some professions should just try to speak in a more plain language so everybody can understand, and we see that things are not so complicated. So starting with this definition that finance is not something that is complicated, it's something that all of us know how to do, because all of us has been surrounded and living with money all our lives. And most of us, the problem is not how to manage our money, it's access to money, it's access to opportunity. I see many people that they are great administrators. The thing is that they are paid $7, $8, $10, $13 an hour. And if you are paid $13 an hour and you are able to manage a family, you are a great administrator. That's something that we need to be. Being low income is not easy. And when people survive, when people advance in their life with this level of income, we need to trust them. So having these core values that no immigrant cross the border to default alone. Everybody should have access to loans in with the same requirements. In my opinion, access to credit should be a human right. This should be something that all of us should have access in fair conditions. This country has a lot of credit opportunity. The thing is, these abusive loans that you're gonna get, and not only from predatory lenders, sometimes it's for regular financial institutions that once you overdraft your account for $3, you're gonna be charged $30 in a penalty fee. No, it's a courtesy payment. No, it's $30 for $3 that you just bought a coffee. So understanding all these differences, putting at some common sense, accepting that any single product that you offer is something that you would like to use. Because I think most of the time we fail when we try to think in products in our credit unions that they are for other people. If they are not for us, if they're not good enough for me, it shouldn't be good enough for anybody. The same mentality we have with our job positions. Would I be willing to do the job in the situation that if I wouldn't do the job, probably the job has some problems. We shouldn't abuse somebody for this compensation of this level of responsibility based on this level of education or experience. Is this mentality that we shouldn't abuse our employees, we shouldn't abuse our members, we shouldn't abuse our planet. If we don't abuse, it's going to be enough resources for all of us for a long time. But if we abuse, at some point people are going to say enough is enough.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I think kind of shifting into your role as a national recognized leader in community development space, and your recent appointment to the CDFI Fund Advisory Board. What does that role mean for you? And how can CDFI certified credit unions be more impactful? And how can the CDFI fund better recognize that impact beyond lending?
Well, that's a good question. First, we credit unions, I think we came from a wall that we need to break our own glass ceiling, thinking that we are just a financial institution that this is very simple. We just receive deposits, we make loans, we charge some commission for the services, and we just do enough margin, and let's keep doing the same. That's good, that's a credit union. I don't think some communities they are in desperate need for something more than that. And that's how we read our situation. So again, going back 21 years ago, with our urgency was our community was killed every single weekend. There was no way that we're gonna wait or slow down, knowing that if we don't go to a different city, we don't go, because it's about perception. It's about knowing that before individuals may have carried their cash on their pocket, even if not all of them join the credit union at the same time, at least the perception to the larger community is now we are not walking ATMs anymore. We have a financial institution that we can deposit that. So if you have this urgency, you're going to start looking for different channels. So we're credit unions. We are a 501c14s. We are non-profit, but we are non-charitable organizations. So what if we start looking for additional source of capital, as I said before, to accelerate this process of growth? CDFI is a great way to do that. There is a large amount of money every year that has been split mainly in institutions just providing loans. I don't know if risky or not risky because I've never done these loans, but loans instead of the depository institutions, because something that I realized over these years that we as credit unions, we don't know how to ask for money, or we don't know how to ask for help. And this is something that we need to change. So in the moment that you transform your institution in something that can be, we have multiple skins. We are a credit union, but we are a CDFI, but we are a low-income designated credit union, but we are a minority depository institution. At the same time, in our case, we launched 501c3, our charitable arm. So we were able to apply for grants for foundations, for charitable organizations, providing money to economic development, so and making pass-through grants for equity for our organization. So having all these different schemes, creating a model that can really go beyond what is just loans and deposits, and investing in different needs from our community, from starting with education, and now in our case moving into culture, and development of inclusion and equity programs, understanding who we are as a community, telling our own story as a community, all these things that in our case came with the experience of being an immigrant in North Carolina, is something that we can return to our community through the vehicle of being a credit union. Having some visibility in the system, to be honest, is something that never bothered me, or I never spent one single minute just cultivating that, because I don't think that's relevant. I think individual figures doesn't build communities, is the group that is important. So we are an institution, and usually our employees, if you don't fit in this profile, eventually you're not going to stay with us very long, which is, we have a very low personal ego as individuals. We have a very high organizational ego. We really protect and we cultivate and we want to respect the Latino Community Credit Union. The individuals behind that, we are not important because we are not so crucial. It's the group, is the whole organization, the one that makes a difference. Is the whole community, is the membership, the one that makes a difference. You can be the same CEO or the same employee in different places, but if your members don't pay back the loans, there is nothing that you can do. And basically means that you are not a good lender. That's what you need to understand. What is the need of your community that you're trying to? So the CDFI basically is explaining everybody, if we did it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of believing that you can really have something different to offer. What is your needs, the community that you want to serve, the community that you want to, and something that we are very proud is we have never been short of delivering our commitment to any grant, any foundation, or any CDFI money that we receive. If we commit to do 3, we usually end up doing 4 or 5, never 2.
Wonderful. Well, Luis, I have enjoyed this time today with you. Just to kind of wrap up, what kind of advice would you give or would you offer to a credit union that is looking to leverage their CDFI certification?
The first thing I think is you need to know who you are. You need to know what are you doing here. Are you working for an industry or for a movement? If you are in an industry, probably you're not going to last very long, because at some point somebody is going to give you a different compensation, a different package. If you're in a movement that really feel your energy, your commitment, your dreams, you have all the space that you want. So you can transform your credit union in something that can really affect in a deeper way the life of the community that you serve. You can transform your institution, taking advantage of every single program that is out there, or creating your own programs for people to support this mission, this drive that you have, that you want to deliver, to accomplish in your life. So I think we need to move in the perception that we are a financial institution that is very limited in the things that we can do, into an understanding that we are in an area that we can really dream big, because there are many things that we can do. And sometimes we focus too much in things that we cannot do. I cannot expand my Philo membership. I cannot make business loans. I cannot make, well, let's start thinking what we can really do, because there are a lot of things that we can do. And even without making business loans, we don't do business loans, you can grow. You can be a big player and a factor that really changes the life, the opportunity of your community. We are growing at a rate of between 20 and 25% every single year for the last 15 years. Before that, the growth was even larger because you are smaller, and growing at 40, 50% is something that was common for us in the first 5 years. But now reaching the amount of assets and of deposits, and even during the pandemic, growing our loan portfolio in no deposits, everybody growing deposits, but keep lending to your community and growing a portfolio another 25%. That proves that there is a huge need out there that nobody's covering. So if you believe in yourself, if you are able to take full responsibility for your own limitations and things that you don't know, and ask and learn and go to different places that people can teach you or inspire you, and now you need to have your action plan and start doing things in a way that maybe is very similar to what you used to do before, or maybe it's completely different, because the opportunities are there. Resources are there, people are willing to help. As cooperative, we are here to support each other. And again, if you think this is an industry, you're not gonna last a long time. If you really don't believe that you can really make a better world for everybody by working in cooperatives, in credit unions, you should consider your career path and decide this is what you really want to do, because the opportunities are huge.
Wonderful. Well, you heard it first from Luis Pastor. Thank you so much, Luis. Industry versus movement, right? That's really what we're kind of diving into here, and thinking about like what does that mean for your credit union? What does that mean for your community and for your members? Luis, thank you so much for joining me today. On behalf of Inclusiv, it means a lot to us to have you on this interview, and to be able to have you speak to our practitioners that are on this course. So thank you again.
Thank you, Grisel. Bye, everybody.